When many students begin writing Chapter 2 of an academic research project, they often believe their task is simply to gather many textbooks, copy what different authors have written, and arrange the materials under different headings. But that is not what Chapter 2 is meant to be. Chapter 2 is called the Literature Review, and it plays a much deeper academic role. A literature review is a section of a research project where the researcher carefully studies what other scholars, researchers, and experts have already discovered about the topic being investigated. In simple terms, Chapter 2 answers two major academic questions. They are: what do scholars already know about this topic? And what important questions remain unanswered? By answering these questions, Chapter 2 helps position your research within the larger body of academic knowledge. In today's episode of Research Hub and Academic Mentorship, we will carefully explore what literature review really means, how Chapter 2 is structured, how to organize scholarly ideas properly, how to identify research gaps, and how to avoid common mistakes students make. By the end of this lesson, you will understand how to write Chapter 2 of an academic research project with clarity and academic confidence. In academic research, the word literature does not only refer to novels or storybooks. Literature refers to all scholarly materials that discuss issues related to your research topics. These materials may include academic textbooks, peer-reviewed journals articles, conference papers, theses and dissertations, government publications, and reputable research reports. These sources contain ideas, findings, theories, and debates developed by other scholars. When writing Chapter 2, the researcher studies these materials in order to understand what has already been studied, what conclusion previous researchers reached, what area still needs further investigation. This process is called reviewing the literature. In most academic research projects, Chapter 2 usually contains three major sections. 1. Conceptual review. 2. Theoretical review. 3. Empirical review. Each of these sections contributes a different type of academic understanding. For conceptual review, it explains the major concepts used in the research topic. Every research topic contains important key ideas that must be clearly understood. For example, the impact of social media usage on academic performance among undergraduate students. You would agree with me that the important concepts in this topic include social media, academic performance, online engagement, and digital communication. In the conceptual review, the researcher explains these ideas using scholarly definition provided by experts. For example, a scholar may define social media as digital platforms that allow users to create, share, and exchange information through online communities. Another scholar may describe social media as interactive technologies that facilitate virtual communication and content sharing. By presenting and comparing these definitions, the researcher helps readers understand how the concept will be interpreted within the study. We need to consider theoretical review, another section you will find in this chapter. The theoretical review discusses academic theories that help explain the research problem. A theory is an organized explanation of how or why certain behaviors occur. For example, when studying social media usage among students, researchers may refer to uses and gravitation or gratification theory. This theory suggests that people actively choose media or media platforms to satisfy certain personal needs, such as entertainment, information, social interaction. Applying this theory to students means that students may engage with social media because it satisfies communication needs or provides entertainment. Another example is social learning theory, which suggests that people learn behaviors by observing others. In online environment, students may adopt behaviors they observe through social media interactions. By connecting research to theories, the study becomes intellectually grounded within established academic thinking. Another section is empirical review. The empirical review examines previous studies conducted by other researchers. These studies provide evidence gathered through real research investigations. For example, one study might find that excessive social media use reduces students' concentration during study hours. Another study may discover that social media platforms can support collaborative learning among students. The researcher reviews these findings carefully and compares them accordingly. Through this comparison, the researcher begins to see patterns such as areas where researchers agree, areas where findings contradict each other, and areas that have not been sufficiently explored. After reviewing existing studies, the researcher must identify the research gap. A research gap is the aspect of a problem that previous studies have not fully addressed. For example, many studies may have examined social media and academic performance globally, but perhaps few studies have investigated students in a specific region or institution. This gap justifies the new research because it answers the question, why is this study necessary? Now let's quickly talk about common mistakes in Chapter 2. Many students struggle with Chapter 2 because they copy large sections from textbooks. They struggle because they list authors without analyzing their ideas. They battle with these chapters because they present literature without connection to their research problem. From today, I believe you would know and agree with the fact that a good literature review should compare ideas, analyze findings, and connect previous studies to the current research. Chapter 2 demonstrates that research is a conversation across generations of scholars. By reviewing literature carefully, researchers build upon existing knowledge while also contributing new insights. Dear friends, in our next episode of Research Hub and Academic Mentorship, we will examine another critical stage in academic research writing. That is, how to write Chapter 3 of an academic research project. That is research methodology. Because after identifying the problem and reviewing literature, the next question becomes, how will the research actually be conducted? Until then, see you, and please try to subscribe to this channel and share with others. Thank you very much for staying with us. Thank you.